to the Imagine What's Possible podcast. In each episode of Imagine What's Possible, we talk to experts here at Flint Hill who share their knowledge and practical insights on what you can be doing right now to actively support your child's educational journey. I'm your host, Mia Burton, Assistant Head of School for Community Equity and Student Success. I've worked for over 2 decades on transforming school environments from the inside out, driving policies and programs to create a truly inclusive and equitable community here at Flint Hill. Today, we're talking to Joelle Tam, Dean of Student Life and Community at our upper school. She'll share her thoughts on why student-led activities and initiatives are crucial to building students' independence, problem solving, and sense of belonging. Joelle, for your first question, how does shifting from doing things to students to doing things with students change the energy on campus?
Yeah, great question. So, at the risk of sounding kind of hokey, I'm going to say it anyways, I really do feel like there is an actual energy shift when you do things with students versus doing things to them. And I'll give you an example from this year. So we have, at the start of the school year, a 2-day orientation, as you know, and it's a lot, those 2 days. Even teachers who have been here for 20 plus years will say it feels like a fire hydrant of information. And there's a lot of important things and information we want to get to our students, which is why it's a lot. But over the years, and this year in particular, we've heard the feedback of it's too much, too many presentations. It's the first couple days of school. It should feel more celebratory. It should feel happy, energetic, rather than just do this, don't do that, remember to do this, etc. And so this year during orientation, yes, we still had to keep some of the, essentials so that kids know how to log on to Husky Hub, those kinds of things. But we also were really intentional about building in more team building activities. Jeremiah Shepard and I, the Dean of Students, we worked together on kind of an opening assembly where we did a huge team bonding activity with the 2 grades who were on campus each day. And so that was kind of our plan, and we were hoping that it would shift the energy. And lo and behold, we did get a lot of really, really positive feedback from students and from adults just saying, actually, those exact words, there is such positive energy in this building. And I really think it's because rather than just doing things to students, like dumping information on them, we really were, again, as always, we talk about being student-centered here at Flint Hill. We really wanted to do it with them. And so we invited them into these activities, into these things that got them physically moving around, because we know kids can't sit still, for more than like 20 minutes, 15 minutes at a time. And also, more than just doing activities, we also invited our student leaders to lead a lot of these activities, so it wasn't just adults who were doing all the things. And so I think seeing their peers up in front of them also really made a huge difference in feeling like, I'm part of this community. I'm walking back into the building. This is a place where I belong. And yeah, I want to be here. So really, there is a huge, I think, energy shift when you do things with students as opposed to just doing it to them.
And that's something I've noticed this year working in the upper school building is watching students take ownership of those things. And part of that kind of agency is being allowed to try things that might not work. How do your offices create a safety net where students can take leadership risks, encounter obstacles, and maybe even fail without it being a catastrophe? And how does that build resilience?
Yeah. I have 2 answers, I think, to that question. One answer I'll start with has to do with kind of giving students agency in student leadership. And so we always say that leadership looks like so many different things at Flint Hill or in life, and we want to make sure we emulate that at Flint Hill. And so, yes, we have your traditional leadership groups, but we also have ways to be a leader and not necessarily be in one of those groups. And I would say clubs is a really huge part of the way that we build student agency at the upper school. We have over 90 active clubs this year, and our clubs program is 100% student-led, student-driven. Yes, an adult, has to be the sponsor. We need adult supervision, but all club events and club meetings are completely student-driven. And so from the registration process to signing up to club fair to adding new members, maintaining members, planning events, like I said, all of that is 100% within the student hands. Now, kind of going to the safety net part, right? We have over 90 active clubs, and I'll say maybe 95% of those clubs are really meeting regularly, and 5% of those clubs maybe have met once in the past 6 months. I wouldn't call that a failure, but it's okay, right? Maybe a student is really excited about an idea, they think they're passionate about it, they want to try it, and then as the year goes on, they realize maybe I don't have the bandwidth for this, or maybe it's not as interesting as I thought it was, or maybe I really just want to stick to doing this as my own hobby and I don't think I can manage a club. And that's okay. It doesn't really matter if your club kind of fizzles out at the end of the year. Obviously, our hope is that all of our clubs will be robust and strong and meet regularly. But that's kind of what this experience is for, trying new things, trying to start something. And if you love it, great. If it works, great. And if it doesn't, it's okay. Or maybe the kid, they didn't meet regularly, but they realized, I do still want to do this, and I know now what it takes. And so next year, I can work with them and really figuring out, okay, what went wrong this year? How can we fix it? And what are some skills that we maybe need to learn or just bolster a little bit in order to help your club be more successful? So I think clubs are a really great example of student agency, but they have this safety net of it's okay to try something and quote unquote fail. My second example is maybe you made a mistake. Say you were, it was crunch time for a test and you looked at, a friend's paper and you knew you shouldn't have used it, but you did anyways, right? And it's a mistake. And I think that at Flint Hill, we have these guardrails of both accountability, but also restoration, where if you make a mistake, that's, you will be held accountable because we want you to learn from your mistakes and we want you to be a person of character and a person of integrity. But if you make a mistake, you will go before one of our councils that are sat on by both students and faculty, and the council will hear your case. You will get to reflect on your mistakes. And again, there is a consequence, but there's a reflective, restorative element that I think really helps build not only lesson learning, but resilience for our students. So I think those are two great examples of kind of how our students move through the building.
Mm-hmm. And I've watched students who've gone through that process and to see how, not just their resilience, but also kind of their understanding and accountability kind of grows, and there's a different sense of awareness when you have a mistake and have to go through that process. And I know with parents, sometimes the instinct is often to jump in and solve those problems for kids. What is one area of school life where you wish parents would step back so their children can step up and practice their own agency?
Yeah. The number one question that I get in my position, I don't know that it's a question, it's more of a request. A parent will call me or email me and say, can you please make my child do X, Y, and Z? And it's specifically usually about leadership opportunities. Can you please make my child run for SCA president? Can you please make my child sign up to become an ambassador? And I 100% support parents wanting their children to step outside their comfort zone and get involved. And we all know that the college process is very rigorous, it's very selective, and it's very competitive, and you've got to kind of incorporate these extracurriculars. I get that. I'm not against that. I would say what I would like to see from parents is maybe having less of a predetermined idea about what leadership looks like, and be a little bit more open-minded in terms of what their child could get involved in. It doesn't have to be ambassadors. It doesn't have to be the Student Council Association. Your child maybe they're really interested in video games, and maybe the parent might not be really thrilled about that, but if they start a club about video games, right, that demonstrates leadership, that demonstrates an active interest where they are organizing their peers, they're putting on events, that could actually really be something. And I would say it's easier for the student to maintain dedication to that because they're genuinely interested about that, video games or whatever it might be. And so that would be my top advice for parents. Yeah, push your kids. Let them explore. Tell them to get involved because there's so many things to get involved in. But, let's work together with the child to think outside the box of what they could do to demonstrate leadership potential. Right? One of our core values is imagine what's possible, and another one is blaze the trail, and we really mean that. So let's think outside the box in order for your kid to showcase who they are and how they can be a leader.
And I know over my years here, I've seen just the range of ways that students have expressed their leadership skills through their own curiosity, through their own sense of just wonder about so many different topics, and kind of leading those kind of different initiatives that have an impact on our community in so many positive ways. Can you share a story or two about a student-led initiative that have really impressed or inspired you?
Yeah. One that I can share was an initiative led by our current SCA president, Naomi Jacobs. She's a senior this year. At the very start of the year, she came to the student council and myself and Mr. Andrew Kane, who we are the faculty sponsors, and she shared that she really wanted to impress upon the whole upper school the importance of realizing what a privilege it is to be here. And specifically, she had this idea that she wanted to impress upon her peers that we're very privileged in food security. She was specifically saying how she's frustrated she hears a lot of complaints from students about our lunch menu and things of that nature, but she was saying, no, it's actually a really wonderful menu, and we are so lucky and blessed to be able to access this every day when people right here in Fairfax County are not able to access that. And so she took it upon herself to reach out to local organizations. So we landed on working and partnering with Food for Neighbors. And she and the rest of the student council put together a food drive. And the whole process was very intentional. They specifically decided to have the food drive in February because February is kind of a month after the holidays, right, where these food banks get a lot of help, a lot of volunteers, but then there's a dry spell. And so they said, let's fill the gap in February when no one is thinking about helping these food banks. And so they asked Food for Neighbors, how can we partner with you? And they said, we're always just looking for food donations. It's very simple. So we had a food drive here at the upper school. And I don't remember the exact numbers, but Food for Neighbors came back and said that we had donated a record-breaking amount of weight in food to them. And I was just so proud of Naomi that, it started with this idea and care for our community, and it turned into something really great. And actually, so the second story I'll share, which has yet to kind of come to fruition, but I literally just got an email today from one of our juniors, Isaiah Hammond. He emailed me and a few other administrators in the upper school and said, "Dear admin, I really want to find a way to honor our custodians because they do so much every day to clean up after our mess, and we don't thank them. What can we do?" Like literally today, he emailed that to us. And so those are, I think, just two examples of how our students not only care, but feel like they have a voice and know that they can reach out to us and, action will happen.
Thanks, Joelle, for sharing all of those different experiences and your insights. I think we can both say that we appreciate working in a place that really sets the environment where students can live out not only our core value, but our visions for students to take meaningful risks, be themselves, and make a difference, and launch off into the world being the leaders that we'll need in the future. So thank you for our time, and as always, happy to be a part of the Imagine What's Possible podcast.